Here for some legal perspective, I'd like to welcome in Misty Marris, legal analyst and trial attorney. Misty, great to see you again. So we just heard from Nancy there. Just talk about everything the judge was weighing, when it came to whether or not Gutierrez Reed would have to testify. We've learned, prosecutors likely will be calling her to the stand. And how could that potentially impact this case?
Yeah, so this was a really big issue because Hannah Gutierrez Reed is appealing her conviction. And so in order for her to testify, prosecutors were asking the judge to grant what's called a limited immunity, meaning that none of her testimony in Alec Baldwin's trial can be used against her moving forward. Now, it sounded like Nancy said that the judge denied the granting of immunity. So if Hannah Gutierrez Reed is in fact called to the stand, that's going to be pretty difficult to elicit any testimony. And that's because she does have her right against self-incrimination. So each and every question will be analyzed by the judge as to whether or not she can be compelled to answer it. So in some cases, she may raise her Fifth Amendment right. In other cases, there may be questions that do not necessarily implicate her or incriminate her. And so she'll be testifying more about facts and circumstances on that set. So that will be very interesting, how much testimony is actually elicited if she does not have immunity.
Right, because, we may not learn much from her testimony, but how could, yes, she plans to appeal. She is appealing, but how could her trial that has already happened, her conviction that has already happened, her sentencing that has already happened, how could all of that impact Baldwin's case?
Well, Alec Baldwin is going to be pointing the finger. His defense team is going to say there's already been a disposition on Hannah Gutierrez Reed that she is the one who was responsible for the gun. And in fact, the critical issue, and I think this is where the defense is going to go, the critical issue is, how did the live bullets get in the gun? Nobody is saying Alec Baldwin was responsible for loading the gun. And so they're going to be focused on the live bullets on set, how they got there, and that's not part of the prosecution's case against Alec Baldwin. So it's going to be shifting the blame essentially from Alec Baldwin to others who were more culpable. And in this case, that's Hannah Gutierrez Reed.
And so speaking of potential blame, let's talk about this new evidence. Prosecutors introducing recently this new photo of Baldwin allegedly minutes before the fatal shooting. Just talk about the timing of this potential new evidence and what it could mean for this case.
Yeah, this is big because that was the prosecutor saying in the hearing that there's an eyewitness who's going to say that they saw Alec Baldwin pull the trigger. That is new information. And the photograph where you see Alec, that's going to be admitted, that we learned about in the prosecutor's filings, where you see Alec Baldwin's finger close in time to the incident in the area where the trigger is on the gun. So all of that is going to be very, very relevant to that issue. He's taken the stand. He said it publicly. He said, I never pulled the trigger. There must have been a gun malfunction. And so now you're going to have that eyewitness who's going to directly contest that. In addition to the photograph and this eyewitness relating to pulling the trigger, there's also going to be 10 plus hours of video, according to the prosecutor's motion, that's going to show Alec Baldwin acting recklessly on set, pointing the gun, using it as a pointer, and rushing Hannah Gutierrez Reed to reload. So all of that is going to speak to how he was actually handling the gun and whether or not that was consistent with his safety training, which is another issue that he did not take seriously, apparently, according to prosecutors.
And we don't have much time left, but I have to ask you, it was recently announced that Baldwin signed up for this reality show with his family. All the details have yet to be released. We know he has mounting legal bills, but just from a defense perspective, is this a good idea?
You just don't want to talk about this trial at all from the defense perspective, because anything that's out there, and I had said this when he was doing the flurry of interviews after this terrible, terrible tragedy, it can come back to bite you and haunt you in the courtroom.
All right, we will see if that moves forward. Legal analyst, trial attorney, Misty Marris, thank you.
Thank you.